To leave the European Union and all of the anxiety and precarity that that's causing for migrants in Britain. Like that. Okay, cool. Sorry. Once more, thanks again for coming, everyone. In the aftermath of the vote to leave the European Union and all of the precarity and anxiety that that's causing for a lot of the migrants and migrant communities in London. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming out to send an unequivocal message that we're going to keep building a migrants' rights and anti-racist movement that will resist any attack on our migrant brothers and sisters. We'll resist any attack on workers' rights. Workers' rights are migrant rights. Like, the attacks that there have been on non-EU migrants are likely to be extended to all migrants in Britain. And it's high time that we came together as a movement and started resisting. Just before we head off, I'm going to ask for some speakers from some of the migrant solidarity and anti-racist campaigns that supported the demonstration to come and say a few words about the work they've been doing and the work we'll all need to start participating in and advancing ourselves in the coming weeks and months. So first I'd like to invite Anna from Movement for Justice. A group that's built tirelessly against detention centres and the brutal regime of violence and terror that they've instilled in a large number of migrant communities. Anna. Oh, sorry. Cool. Anna from Movement for Justice.
Just short. Yes, I'm very proud to be a member of Movement for Justice by any means necessary. I'm an immigrant, you can tell it. And the reason why I moved to the UK, to London, it was because I wanted to be like free in a multicultural society and all those like progressive things. What I found in London when I moved is that there is a fight to be made, and is a fight that regards immigrant rights as well as like rights for everyone to have jobs, to have a better life, to have free educations. But most of all, I saw for the first time the real fighters in this society. They are really like under attack, and they are like asylum seekers coming to this country for the same dreams that I have, freedom and dignity, like a better life. Now the referendum, why we got to this like outcome, and why we had this referendum at all, this is because of like different governments on all sides, you know, left and right, all of them, they are responsible for the racist scapegoating of immigrants. All those years, they have been the one using racism as a tool to divide and rule the communities, and as a tool so they could push through all the cuts, all the austerity measures that have been pushed through. So those people are responsible. The racism of the rich and powerful on both sides, again, Labour Party and Tory Party, those are the ones, they are still pushing, they are still talking about austerities, and they have no better like option for us, that they want just to divide us, and they're going to push through those people. We have like a response, which is a growing immigrant rights and civil rights movement, and it's growing. You can see it outside Yazwood Detention Center and inside Yazwood Detention Center, where women, hundreds of women have been organized and are organized right now to get freedom. They moved here, as well as like all the people that are like pushing through the borders and putting down fences, bringing down fences and moving to these countries for freedom, for dignity. This is the same fight of the people in detention center, for asylum seeker, people that are released in this community. International students, they are under the threat. Okay, this is our fight. We know that those are the leaders of this struggle. They are the forefront. They are the one that have most to lose. They're the one they are fighting, and they are inspiring all of us. This is why outside Yazwood you could see an integrated movement. Young people, white, black, Asian, together, united, because we know that this is a fight for like a progressive society, and this fight for the future is linked. We are linked. We are immigrant. This is our fight. This is the fight of our community, and we need to recognize that racism is what, is pushed through to divide us, but we know how to, to cut through those prejudices and how to come together. On the 10th of September, there is going to be the next Yazwood demonstration. There were like almost 2,000 of people at the last one. We want to be more than 2,000, and we can be more. This is the way. Yes. This is the time where we can show the movement really building up and really cutting through the shit and all the rubbish of those rich and powerful. We need to build a independent, youth-led civil rights and immigrant rights movement that has, detainees inside, and asylum seeker refugees at the forefront. This is like our future, and this is our fight. There is no other way. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I have to start with saying that I know how privileged I am. I am white, heterosexual male coming from a middle-class family. I have a university education. I came to this country not because I was fleeing war or hunger. I did not have to hide from hatred. I came here solely because it was a good career move. I am also not really threatened with Brexit, as I am a part of brain drainage. So yes, I am privileged. But I am here this evening to express how wrong it is that I was able to come to this country not being in any special need, while so many others are denied the right for safe life. I was able to come here because I am a citizen of an EU member state. I don't know for how long the status will protect me here, but certainly my life is not in danger, while the thousands of others across Mediterranean Sea, Middle East and spread all over Europe do not have this luck. The referendum was lost, and it was lost badly. During the fight over EU, the demons of racism and bigotry have been not only awakened but also well nourished by the far right, reaching up to, as everything points to it so far, a political murder of Joe Cox. I am here today because in the first place I am an internationalist. I don't believe in nations and nation states. The battle against migrant scapegoating started during the referendum campaign is not over and must be continued. Not because we should unconditionally love the EU. It has so many flaws. It is currently run by neoliberals. It negotiates TTIP. Its handling of refugee crisis was and still is appalling. However, somewhere there, buried deeply in the beginnings of European integration, lies a wonderful idea, born over dead fields of Verdun and cold chimneys of Auschwitz. This is the idea that we can and should look broader and further than a nation state. That we should care for people other than the ones of our kin, like we care for our own families. The idea that it is better to cooperate than rip each other to pieces. The Union itself, but also the European countries and governments one by one, have somehow forgotten about this great idea. Yet I cannot believe that all the people have forgotten too. Maybe some got scared, maybe some got manipulated. But I am sure that the idea lives deep down in there. It is our role to bring this idea back, to dig it up from underneath all of the neoliberal dirt, from underneath the racism and hatred, to take over the institutions here in UK and in the EU and spread this thought wider and further through them, not only in Europe, but in the whole world. I stand here on behalf of Polish political party called Razem. Razem is a Polish word for together. So let's stand together and battle the demons that cannot be defeated alone. We might lose this fight. I cannot promise a win, but the alternative to it is bloodshed. So we must not give up, because I can promise you that we will lose for sure if we give up the fight. Thank you.
Hi there. I want to say a few words about why this is happening, because I think it's important to set what's happened today in the wider context of what has been happening across Europe and across the world over the last few years. Most of the reporting in the mainstream media of the referendum has kind of treated it as a kind of a little local difficulty of David Cameron, and it certainly is that. But if you look at every country across Europe, you see a very similar pattern to Britain. Austerity being imposed, sometimes on unwilling governments in Greece, Italy, places like that, or willingly by governments in Germany, Britain and France. As this austerity gets imposed, a whole load of people in the middle of society who would normally just go out and vote for a Labour Party or vote for a Conservative Party lose their faith and drop away. So you've seen a collapse of social democratic parties across Europe and a collapse in support for traditional right-wing parties as well. Now, how do they respond to that? They want to impose austerity, but they're losing support. And the way they do it is they say, well, I'm going to blame immigrants. We're going to blame the blacks. We're going to blame the Muslims. And so racism becomes the key method by which these parties shore up their support. Of course, that leads to a very, very, very dangerous dynamic, because the moment they start doing that, the people who they wind up and the people who buy into the ideas of anti-immigrant stuff and racist stuff, they just want more. So you see the rise of far-right parties, UKIP here, AfD in Germany, again, across Europe. And so the cycle continues. And you're now seeing the Schengen Agreement, which is the agreement that set up Fortress Europe but brought down the internal border controls inside Europe, that is falling apart. I think not just in Britain but everywhere in Europe you're going to see more internal borders, more governments, including nominally left-wing ones, turning around and saying the way we can shore up our voter base is by attacking migrants. And the forces that are making that happen are huge. They're global economic forces that it's very easy to just kind of stare at and feel completely trapped by. But I do think there is something we can do. We do need to actually start building a mass, popular, grassroots anti-racist movement to counter this. That is really, really urgent. I say it has to be popular because it has to be big. You know, if we don't start winning the hearts and minds of ordinary people across Europe to this perspective, which is currently a minority one, we're lost. And it also has to catch the anti-austerity mood. The thing that's driving this behind it is neoliberalism and austerity being imposed and wrecking people's lives. I saw a poll today that showed that basically one of the biggest things that Leave voters believed is that they didn't think things would get better for their children and the next generation. And you know what? I think that assessment is probably pretty accurate if we don't stop it. Now, at the moment, I also want to say why I think it needs to be a grassroots movement, because I don't think we can trust politicians on this one. I've explained the reasons why. They will always seek to try to, on the one hand, put out a kind of polite message of cosmopolitanism, on the other hand, viciously attack one group or another. They will try to divide the people at the bottom of society. Are you a Londoner or are you a Northerner? Are you an EU immigrant or are you non-EU? Are you a migrant worker or are you a refugee? And we have to actually spot those games before they get running and argue against them. And that means having a hard position of defence of all migrant rights, a migrant justice position that opposes all immigration controls and all borders. As I said, it's a bleak picture. I'm not gonna kind of, be triumphalist about anything. It is a bleak picture, and it's a bleak picture across Europe, and it's a bleak picture across the world. But we can do something about this, and we have to start now. Thank you.
My was going to start by saying what Judas is, but Matt just has. Thanks, Matt. Oh, sorry, is that better? So the first UK borders were actually risen in 1905 to keep out Jewish immigrants in a debate that was couched in exactly the same kind of racist language that we hear now to keep out immigrants today. A decade later, the government made it clear that their position on Jews was to send us to Israel, where we would displace Palestinians and create more refugees rather than welcoming Jewish immigrants here. Judas stand against this. We are a diasporist organisation who seek to reclaim and celebrate Jewish traditions of non-nationalism, the Jewish diaspora, but also stand in solidarity with everyone else who is living in diasporas. Racist borders and fascist violence are a part of Jewish history, a part of the experiences of many of our own families. We are here to stand in solidarity with everyone who still experiences this today, with everyone who is persecuted just because of where they happen to have been born. Today is the Jewish Sabbath, but for us in Judas, it is not a day of rest today. Today is a day for action, a day to demand that everyone be allowed a place to stay where they can rest, a place that they can make home, whether it's where they want to be or where they have to be, regardless of where they were born. Good Shabbos.
Hola, hola, hola. Buenas tardes a todos. Buenas tardes a todos los presentes. Mi nombre es Juan, soy del Ecuador, pertenezco al Sindicato de Voces Unidas del Mundo.
Hello everybody, my name is Juan, I'm from Ecuador and I'm a member of the union United Voices of the World.
Considero que hoy es un día histórico para las masas obreras, para la clase trabajadora, para el sindicalismo en general del Reino Unido.
I think today is an historic day for workers, for the working class and for everyone here in the UK. And for unions.
Es la primera vez que estoy hablando en presencia de muchísimas personas.
Will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated.
Shattered the European project. Today is the first of many chances to stand up and say that the hateful, racist, Islamophobic voices that have dominated the national debate do not speak for us. That we are committed to the fight against fascism, to the defence of human rights for all, and to the building of a Britain that welcomes everyone. Which is why from this moment we must start saying louder and with more confidence than before what our movement has always understood, that the fight against racism within and beyond our borders is utterly inseparable from the movement for peace, democracy and sustainability at home. We win on all fronts or we lose everything we ever had to be proud of. This morning a friend of mine shared on Facebook the story of a mixed-race girl in a primary school in the rural south who was told by her classmates when she arrived at school today that she had to leave the country. This is little children acting out the big power politics. And I can't stop thinking about that story. And all the way up here from Dorset on my 3-hour train journey this morning, my heart was heavy with all that means for our shared future. But seeing you all here today gives me hope, and I want to thank you for that. Keep coming out, keep having the arguments, keep building our movement, and together I still believe that we can turn back the tide. Thank you.
It's one that I think that we can all go away from here and try and argue about, no matter what our perspectives are, what our positions are about the nature of the EU or anything else. What unites everyone who's in this crowd is an unrelenting defense of migration and an unrelenting opposition to racism. And I think that there's a real issue that we face in the outcome of the election today, which is that a lot of people, a lot of my friends, a lot of my dearest friends are worried about what is going to happen to them. They've come from overseas, they've come from Europe. And I think that from out of this demonstration, we can have a concrete demand, and that's one that goes beyond an argument about open borders, although I think that we need to keep an argument about open borders. It goes beyond an argument that talks about a long-term thing, but an immediate thing, and that is that we need to raise an argument in the labour movement, in our trade union branches, in our campaigns, if we're in the Labour Party branches we're in, which is that we need an immediate guarantee of the rights of all migrants who are living in Britain, that they will not be sent away, that they will not lose their right to stay in Britain, that they will not lose their right to work in Britain. And I think that that's something that we can test. Who knows what we'll win? Who knows what we can win? But we know, for example, that that's something that Jeremy Corbyn believes in. We know that that's something that all kinds of people in the Labour movement believe in. And I think that out of this, we need to go out and say that we are not going to put up with any attacks or any infringements on the rights of our friends, of our lovers, or of ourselves, because there are so many migrants here today. And I think that that is something concrete that we can take out of this demo and take out into the movements, into the campaigns that we're involved in.
Cheers. Yo, to be honest, I don't know what to say, except for what a fucking wake-up call. And a wake-up call because we've realised, like, unequivocally that racism, xenophobia, and let's be clear, Islamophobia as well, has a lot of power in this country. Power over narratives, power over minds, and a power that maybe we were too complacent about up until now. But this is our fucking wake-up call, trust me. We can no longer be shy, scared, or complacent when arguing about no borders. Britain doesn't recognise borders, yeah, when they're going looking for spices or gold or black and brown bodies to oppress. But it cares about borders when we want to move, when we want to make a living. And that's how you know borders are political. And borders are political and only serve the political elite. This referendum result only serves the political elite. So in that context, we have to say, no borders unequivocally, no deportations, no to detention, and absolutely no to migrants not being able to stay in this country who are already here. And that's a demand that we can raise concretely in our workplaces and our campaigns immediately. But our movement also has to say no to sexism, because migrant women and women of colour are the first to face violence on the streets and violence by the state and violence by racists. Our movement must be queer. We must say full asylum. We must demand full asylum for all of those fleeing homophobic and transphobic violence. And fundamentally, our movement must be working class. Let's be clear about this election result. It's both a combination of racism, xenophobia and Islamophobia, and the absolute decimation over decades of working class communities. Our housing, our jobs, our community centres, our lives, our wages, our trade unions, all of it. We've got to build on an intersectional front and recognise every single one of us here matters. Our lives matter. Migrant lives matter. Black lives matter. And that has to be central to our movement. So on that note, I'm going to end with a mic check from a famous black woman called Asaya Shakur. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love and support one another. We have nothing to lose but our chains. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. For one another. We have nothing to lose but our chains.
message that we will do everything we can to defend the rights of migrants living here. We'll do everything we can to open our borders to refugees, to those in need. But there's a movement of young people who are going to fight in our communities, on the streets and in our workplaces, against every racist law, every attack on workers' rights, every attack on migrant rights they try and bring in. We want Murdoch's rags, his racist newspapers, his racist TV stations, to send a